Dear my friends, today again we are together, and today we will be studying the topics of production, production and costs. I will try to explain the law of diminishing returns depending on the production function. You can follow the topics from the page of 51, the production and costs topic. Actually, we can start with a definition of production. Who makes the production? First of all, we can say that the production is undertaken by firms, governments, and households. Mostly we can say that firms are accepted to be production power of a country. So we consider the firm actions. Firm in Turkish, firma, my friends. Companies, firms, private properties, again, owner. We can say that firms and their actions can be very important for the market actions. Of course, we can say firstly, firms forms goods and services by using production factors. I write down here some features of the firms and productions. Firms' main aim is to make profit, my friend, and they want to maximize their profits. Again, what's the profit? What does profit mean? It is the difference between the total revenue and the costs. Of course, we can say profit equals total revenue minus costs. I write here. And what does total revenue mean? It is calculated by market price times quantity. You can follow here, first of all the things that I said. You can hear profit equals total revenue minus costs. And what does total revenue mean? It is calculated by market price times quantity. So firms, governments, households actions. As for firms, government, household actions, firms produces for only profit. Yes, governments aim for increasing social welfare. Sometimes government can interfere the markets by regulating to regulate the markets in order to increase the social welfare. Household mostly produce for their own needs. For instance, some family farmers can produce for their own needs. For instance, yogurts, canned goods, for winter foods. For instance, at homes we can produce some kind of winter foods in order to meet our needs on the difficult winter conditions. So again, I'm saying that economics consider firms' actions in the markets and their reactions to the price increase or price decreases can be important for the future of the markets. Production is reflected by a production function. Production function can be beneficial to the teaching of production topics. What does production function? Actually, it's a function. It depends on production inputs. For instance, y equals f x1, x2, x3, and blah 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 xn consists of production inputs. A production function indicates how the change in the quantity of the inputs affect the quantity produced. So there are many production inputs, water, seeds in the agricultural production. I'm talking about in agricultural production, water, irrigation water, labor force. All these are production inputs. According to changing a level of those inputs can affect the production amounts. So we can say that, therefore, the changing level of production inputs can affect the production level. Some farmers or some producers have some advantage from their backgrounds. They can be richer than other farmers, for instance. They can use these inputs in excessive levels. So they can produce much more than other farmers, than other producers, than other firms. So these actions, these advantages can make some advantage in the markets. So, but it is not remaining topics that they cannot stable, because law of diminishing returns can happen in the markets. So we have to study the law of diminishing products. So after learning production function, we can pass to a basic relationship between production inputs and production amounts. We can study now total product, average and marginal product definitions according to changing inputs. Only one input we will change. So we will reach, by studying these topics, we can reach the law of diminishing returns. There is no whiteboard. I did write here production function y equals f x1, 2, 3, blah blah xn. These are production inputs, and there are some definitions over there. You can examine our paper while studying law of diminishing returns, and at the page of 42 and 43, you can observe the law of diminishing returns. So there are some definitions before learning the relationship between average and law of diminishing return. One of them is average and marginal product, total product. Again, we will be examining a simple yogurt packaging production function. So we have to use various alternative quantities of labor per unit of time with a fixed machinery capacity. It means that machinery capacity is fixed sabit, but we are increasing the labor force per unit of time. It is changeable, and we are following the relationship between this input and output. So you can follow the table production amounts according to changing labor input amounts. Table 4.1, you can observe. At the table, the first 3 columns indicate the hypothetical short-run production function for yogurt. For instance, machinery equipment is fixed, and we assume that it's a packaging equipment. We are not producing yogurts itself. We are producing a packaging system. We are producing a packaging yogurt. If we increase the labor force, we are talking about the workers here. We can make more packaged yogurt per day. Yes, it's true. And total production is the number of packaged yogurt parcel. In all units of packaged yogurt parcel, labor and quality of yogurt is homogeneous. These are assumptions. The average product of labor, APL, in column 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, average product of labor force, APL, is obtained by dividing each quantity of column 3, by corresponding quantity in column 2. Yes, briefly, it is stated that APL equals total production dividing by input. It's very easy to understand. APL, average production, average product of labor, APL, equals total production dividing by input amount. What is the marginal production? Marginal product of labor, MPL, marginal product of MPL at the column 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here. At the end of the table, right hand side, marginal product of labor, MPL, it is obtained by finding the differences between the sequential quantities is in column 3. Sequential difference in column 3. What does it mean? For instance, if you want to learn the impacts of changing labor force from 1 to 3, you can examine the total product column 3. For instance, here, according to changing labor force, 8 minus 3 give the marginal product of changing or passing from 1 unit labor to 2 unit labor. If you want to learn, if you want to understand the changing impact from labor force 4 units to labor force 5 units, you can observe the changing amount of total product. It is passing from 15 units labor force to 17 units labor force. We can understand that marginal product of labor passing from 4 units labor force to 5 units labor force is equal to 2 units labor. Okay, now we can say again, if you want to learn how can change, how can affect the passing from 1 unit labor force to 2 units labor force, it is impacts on total production is passing from 3 units to 8 units. The marginal impacts of this changing labor force is 5 units marginal product of labor. Yes, average product of labor, APL, is the amount of yogurt per labor force. It is calculated by dividing each quantity at TP total product by corresponding quantity in related labor units according to table. If you examine the total product, average product, and marginal product of labor, and by using this data, you can draw graphical illustration, total product curve, marginal product curve, and average product curve as at the page 53. Please look at the first graphical illustration, which is total production and labor is changing over there. As you can understand from the table, first of all, total product is increasing at increasing rates, and then some curves over there. In the second point, in the second section of the graphical illustration 1, top of the table, total product curve is increasing at decreasing rates this time, and for instance, after the labor amount 4 or 6 units, you can observe the stable curve, and then we can say constant returns. And then if you want to use the labor force 6, 7, 8, for instance, you can examine decreases at increasing rates. Now total product curve is decreasing but at an increasing rate. So you can observe again marginal product curve and average product curve again. As you can understand, the marginal product increases the total product more than the previous one. At the point where the marginal product curve reaches its highest point, the decreasing yield area starts. Okay, we can say that when the marginal product is equal to 0, total product curve is increasing the highest point. After that point, it contributes less than the previous one to the total product in each labor increase. The second section continues until the marginal product is 0. After this point, the marginal product, which has a negative value, causes a decrease in total product if the labor force input continues to be increased. So if you convey all these graphical illustration to the same graphical plane, we can observe the relationship between all three functional curves. So you can observe the relationship at page 54. We can observe we can reach the law of diminishing products by examining this relationship. First section indicates increasing yield area according to changing labor force. Labor force impact can affect the total product amount. And the second section indicates diminishing yield area. Now at this area, marginal product can affect the total product, but at the decreasing rate. After that point, if you want to use labor force, you can reach the decreasing total production. So you have to consider the relationship. It is not important to use highly amounts production inputs, so they can affect the total product curve negatively. So If so, we can pass the total production production cost topics. What does production cost, my friends? Actually, the payments made to the production factors constitute the total costs of the firms. Total costs are examined in two groups here. I did right here. Fixed costs and variable costs. What does fixed costs? Actually, we can use them more than one period. Fields, building, machinery in agriculture production can be a sample of fixed costs. What are the variable costs, if so, in the agriculture production? We cannot use them more than one period. For instance, pesticides, fertilizers, tractor fuel, again, these are variable costs. We can use them more than one period. It is a fixed cost, and we cannot use them more than one period. It is variable costs. And if you sum up the fixed cost and variable costs, you can reach the total cost. Actually, there are some relationship again between the cost curves. For instance, the firms can change the production capacity by changing all production factors in the long term. However, the firms cannot do this in the short term. So we can graphically show the cost concepts. If you look at the page 56, variable costs depend on the production quantity. It depends on the production quantity. Now we are studying here. The total of these two costs gives the total cost as it can be observed from the figure here. The fixed costs are drawn from the production line and are parallel to the horizontal x-axis. Here it is constants parallel to x-axis. These are considered as time-dependent costs in an enterprise. Around depreciation and contractual costs are variable costs. These costs cannot be changed by changing the production quantity. Therefore, the firms need a successful feasibility project before establishment phase of the enterprise. So you have to observe the possible variable costs and fixed costs. After the investment has been made, the lease agreement is not subject to change. Variable costs vary depending on the quantity of production as described above. Such costs will first increase with a decreasing rate and rise with an increasing rate due to efficiency, and then will go into a steady upward trend. Variable costs is located over there. First of all is increasing rates, and then increasing but at decreasing rates, and then again it is increasing. So firms can learn the how to produce some kind of goods. So efficient after an efficient points, variable costs can change, can increase at a decreasing rate. And if you sum up the variable costs and fixed costs, you can draw the total curve costs. It is the sum of the variable cost and fixed cost. Okay, average fixed cost. What does average fixed cost? And it equals total fixed cost divided by output. average variable cost equals total variable cost divided by output. And finally, average cost equals total cost divided by output. AC also equals AVC plus AVC. What does marginal cost? Marginal cost equals the change in TC, total cost, or the change in the TVC, per unit change in output. You can observe the table for two hypothetical values of short-run costs. If you want to learn mathematically, algebraically, the following table here. TFC, TVC, TC, first of all, according to changing quantity levels. You can observe via table 4.2. First of all, I'm giving these variables, these costs variables, TFC, TYC, and TC. You can calculate the TC. It is calculated by summing up the TFC and TVC variable. For instance, at quantity 1, what is the TC? 60 plus 30 units equals 90 units. In the first row, you can observe. You can calculate the AFC at column 5. You can calculate the AFC by TFC dividing by column 1 quantity. For instance, if you want to calculate the third quantity, what is the AFC over there? You have to column 2 dividing by column 1. 60 divided by 3 equals 20 units AFC. You can examine, you can reach all the amounts at the table. What's the AVC, average variable cost? It equals the TVC dividing by TFC. If you want to observe the AVC, for instance, 2 units, you have to use the column 3 and column 1. If you want, column 3 divided by column 1, 40 units divided by 2 units, you can observe 20 units over there. What does AC? AC equals column 5 plus column 6. AC equals AFC plus AVC. So if you want to quantity 6 AC, for instance, you have to AFC plus AVC at the bottom of the table. 10 units plus 20 units equals 30 units. As for MC, you know, MC is a little bit different. If you want to MC is obtained by subtracting sequential values of TC or TVC. We can infer from that MC doesn't depend on the level of TFC. What is the amount of MC passing from 2 units to 3 units? You can observe 105 units costs minus 100 unit costs is equals 5 units marginal costs. If you want to make a graphical illustration by using this data at the table 4.2, you can reach this kind of relationship between AC, AVC, AFC, and marginal cost curve. All can reflect the data from the table 4.2, and you can understand the relationship between cost curve. Okay, my friends, today I wanted to explain the production costs and a relationship between costs, law of diminishing returns, production costs, and the relationship between the costs, total curve, variable curve, fixed cost curve, and the relationship short run relationship of AVC, AC, and marginal cost curve. You have to study, my friends, if you want to proceed yourself in order to understand. It's very difficult to explain here without you. If I want to be in your class, my performance can be higher, but I'm sorry, I'm sorry, really, for that. My performance is bottom of today, but I want to explain the topics as far as in Malay. Next week we will be studying macroeconomic overview. If you want to understand easily, first of all, you can study first before coming to PC, and we will discuss these terms next time. Okay, take care and bye bye.